What a complete disaster. Some might say worst case scenario. And I mean that because the hiring of Pete Carroll and John Spytek has been worst case scenario for the Las Vegas Raiders. And coming up here on today's program, I am going to go through every single thing that this current regime has done wrong on the offensive side of the football, on the defensive side of the football, on special teams included from the very moment that they were hired, because I want people to see and understand that this 1-4 Raiders team that looks completely lost, that this might be worse than Gruden and Mayock, might be worse than McDaniels and Ziegler, might be worse than Antonio Pierce and Tom Telesco. And the only reason why we're not saying it is because of the name Pete Carroll and what he did before. I don't give a shit what you did before. I'm looking at the product right now, and this is the worst Raiders team that I have seen in terms of a plan put together by a head coach and GM. The execution has been absolute dog shit, and it's time that we turn up the heat a little bit here if they're not going to look themselves in the mirror and admit fault. So here's the question that I want to know from every single person that tunes in to this show. What's the worst regime? Was it Gruden and Mayock? Type 1. McDaniels and Ziegler? Type 2. Antonio Pierce Telesco? Type 3. Pete Carroll and John Spytek? I want you to type 4, and I mean it. You come across this show, you better give me one of those answers, because here's my personal opinion. You could make a legit argument. And quite frankly, the reason why I want y'all to watch this video, the reason why, I mean it. I hope y'all hit the like button. I hope you hit the share button. I hope you hit the hype button. And I hope that this video goes viral, because I want the entire world to see that through 5 games, again, only 5 games, from the moment that Pete Carroll was hired, the moment John Spytek was hired, where we are at now, it's the worst regime that the Raiders have put together in a very, very long time, and I'm going to prove it today here on the Raiders Report. Here's why I think when you really talk about the very, very beginning of it, you got to discuss it. Because when you talk about all the other regimes, they didn't get everything that Pete Carroll and this regime are getting. The Raiders had the second most money in salary cap space to add talent throughout all of the months, February, March, April, May, June, July, August. You had all these months to be able to improve this team. Second most salary cap space. You decided not to. The Raiders had 11 total picks in the 2025 NFL draft. And you know what? Pete Carroll and John Spytek have gotten everything. Every single thing that they have asked for. And when you're given every single thing that you've asked for, and you got all this, and the product is what the product is, that's why you can make a legit argument. This is the worst regime that Mark Davis maybe has ever hired. So here's what I'm saying. The Raiders plan, it's failing. Pete Carroll, he expected to win this season. He said back in July, we are going to win a bunch, and I don't care who hears it. Well, guess what, Pete? I hope you hear this. What you've done so far is make the Raiders the laughingstock of the NFL yet again, and you're not man enough to be able to realize that the plan that you have put in place, that the issues that you have brought in are a lot of the issues that you have done yourself. Because to fail this bad with what the Raiders had, it's beyond concerning. Because for a football team that thought that they were going to win, but now look like that they should tank, but yet you're not using the players that you're trying to rebuild with. You're just using old guys that you brought in because they're part of your guys. It is an entire issue right now that I really do not think that, the casual Raider fans are rallying behind. I know the real ones know how bad it is, and I hate being this upset about it, but I really honestly think the only reason why the panic button hasn't been hit as much as the panic button's been hit, it's because it's Pete Carroll. He'll figure it out. I don't know if he is going to figure it out based on how lost this team is right now. So here's a brand new feature on YouTube, and I'm going to ask you all to do this. If you're a frustrated Raiders fan, the number one way that our video is going to be able to really hit that jet stream is if you hit that hype button. Some of you might go, Mitch, what the heck is a hype button? When you're looking on your YouTube, right, you click on this video, you look at the comments. Well, on that comment bar, I want you to scroll to the right. You're then going to see something pop up. It says hype. You get 3 hypes per week. It's a brand new YouTube feature. I want to get this video in the jet stream. I want Mark Davis to see it. I want Pete Carroll to see it. I want John Spytek to see it. I want every single Raiders player to see this video because this really illustrates everything that has gone wrong with this current Raiders regime. So the way that I want to start this video off, let's go through the offensive side of the ball. And this is going to be a long video. I am literally going to go through all of the issues. That way, people who didn't watch this show every single day, that way casual NFL fans can see actually all the flipping issues with this team. Let's first talk about you made Chip Kelly the highest paid offensive coordinator. You gave him $6 million, and what has he shown for you? We are 30th in points per game. The Raiders last season, they averaged 18.2, and you just talk about that little bit right here. You got a brand new quarterback, got a brand new, lot more talented offense, and Chip Kelly's doing worse than Luke flipping Getsy. Then you got two Nepo hires. You decided to hire your son, Brennan Carroll, who's never shown you that he's good enough to be an NFL coach. And then you also hired Nate Carroll, who's your quarterback coach and game management guy. So two Nepo hires, which maybe that's rubbing some people the wrong way. Then not only did you go out and trade for Geno Smith, and at the time I was on board for that deal, but before he ever played a snap, you decided to give him a multi-year extension, and this right now looks like an absolute disaster because if you cut him next offseason, sure, you're only going to have to eat $18 million, but we didn't want to have to deal with another Jimmy Garoppolo, another Gardner Minshew, and yet that's what Geno's been. He's been worse than Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner flipping Minshew. Then, to help out our offensive line, the biggest need that we had this offseason on the offensive side of the football, not named quarterback, was we needed help on the interior. You decided to go out and sign Alex Cappa to a 2-year deal when everybody told you it was a terrible decision because he was the worst offensive lineman the year before in the NFL. And guess what you found out? That he's still one of the worst offensive linemen in the NFL. Then, the Jacoby Myers situation. He wants a brand new contract. You say, no, I don't give a shit that you did everything right this offseason. I'm not going to give you a contract extension. Jacoby says, well, then trade me. 2 days later, you go out and you sign Amari Cooper. That rubs some players the wrong way because Jacoby did everything right. You didn't honor him. You kind of gave him a big old middle finger. You go out and sign Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper retires, what, a few days later because he's fat and lazy? That was a Pete Carroll move. Then you go out, you draft Ashton Jeanty, number 6 overall. I love the Jeanty move. I think all Raider fans love the Jeanty move. The frustrating part was we also sat up here and told you if you're going to draft Jeanty, you better adjust that offensive line. Instead, you found a way to make the offensive line worse. Brennan Carroll comes in. The entire O-line regressed. Not named Colt Miller. DJ Glaze got worse. JPJ's gotten worse. Jordan Meredith has gotten worse. Dylan Parham has gotten worse. Now, they've played better the past 2 weeks. I will give them credit for that. But the entire offensive line played much better under Joe Philbin, and we were 16th in pass blocking rate. 7th in pass blocking rate, 16th in run blocking rate. You decided to change it, and we were one of the worst offensive lines entering the first 3 weeks of the season. Then, what did you decide to do? You decided to put your guys ahead of what's best for the team. You decided to bench JPJ for Alex Cappa. Anybody that's got an ounce of football knowledge knows that JPJ is light years better than Alex Cappa, but you got too much of an ego problem to be able to look yourself in the mirror and actually realize that. Then you're not playing JPJ at center. You know what I want? I want a young player that's my best interior offensive lineman to want to be the center. He introduced Ashton Jeanty himself. Hey, I'm going to be your center. He wants to be your center. You're telling me right now a guy who's clearly the best center on your football team, and you're going to say that you're not going to put him there when he wants to be there? I want guys that want to play. That's what I want. And you said, no, I'm not going to do that. Why? You decided to move Jordan Meredith. You decided to move Dylan Parham. And I know that Parham can play on a few different spots across the offensive line, but moving Meredith to center only hurt Meredith. Moving Parham after a solid year at right guard only hurt Parham, and you're hurting your interior offensive line, which hurts your quarterback, Geno Smith, which hurts the running back that you drafted number 6 overall. Another issue that the Raiders did, Brock Bowers ended up getting hurt. Anybody that had eyeballs could tell that Brock Bowers was not 100% healthy, and instead of allowing him to rest up and get right, you let him play clearly unhealthy, and now he's still not 100%, and he's missing football games when right now we need to be able to figure out a way to get this offense on track, but we can't get it on track because our best option on offense is not 100% healthy, and he's not available. Why the hell was that the plan? What about Mostert? Mostert was benched for 3 weeks. Why? Because a 32-year-old running back didn't want to play special teams, but our coaching staff said, no, you're going to play special teams. Mostert was like, if you want the best part of me on offense, I can't play special teams. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. And the Raiders said, well, you know what? No, we're going to bench you, and we're going to do instead put Zamir White out on the field. Have you seen how much better Raheem Mostert is than Zamir White? You're not properly using Trey Tucker. Trey Tucker's separation is through the roof. How he's not getting more targets, how he's not getting more opportunities overall is honestly a little bit frustrating, because when you watch the film, you can see Trey Tucker deserves more and more and more opportunities. And yet, since that 3-touchdown game, Chip Kelly hasn't made it very important to get him involved in this offense. What about the Genty stance? I think this is a minor one, but I think, there's certain things you go back and you look at what happened in the offseason, and I think that that's an issue that's leading up here today. We got a bunch of coaches that are going, I'm smarter than you. If it's not broken, I don't give a shit. I'm still going to try to fix it, and what I say goes. Why? Oh, it's because what I say goes. Chip, when you talk to grown NFL athletes like they're 5-year-olds, of course that's going to rub them the wrong way, and you made him change his stance, and since he went back to his stance, Ashton Genty has never looked better since being a member of the Las Vegas Raiders. What about this? Not using Genty properly the first 3 weeks. You continue to just run him at a pistol right in the back of your center, right in the back of your center. You didn't do any outside zone reads. Shocker, now you're doing more outside zone reads, and you're having a little bit more success. You didn't throw the football to him. Why? Oh, because Genty couldn't do X, Y, Z. Oh, but now you're realizing when you put the ball in your best player's hands on offense, that good shit happens. It's not rocket science. Let's talk about the draft. Let's keep it moving. Jack Bech and Dante Thornton Jr. Jack Bech is clearly outplaying Dante Thornton Jr., and I'm not saying that as a knock on Dante, but the Raiders' plan was to have Dante over Jack. Instead of admitting that Jack has outplayed Dante, they're still just continuously putting out Dante Thornton Jr. when he needs time to develop. But both of these receivers, I also don't think have shown the full development that we were hoping for, because you needed these two guys to develop, especially if you're not going to go out and pay Jacoby Myers. What about the two offensive linemen we drafted in the third round? The two offensive linemen we drafted in the third round, if this was a rebuild, makes a lot of sense. But it sounds like it's not a rebuild. Now you got Charles Grant, who's still developing. Caleb Rogers seems like a little bit of a reach at this point. And these are two offensive linemen that barely see any playing time, and they barely are even active on game day. What about Tommy Millott? You ended up cutting a quarterback they ended up drafting in the 6th round. And I know it's not that big of a deal, but we maybe could have used that 6th-round pick for extra draft or extra depth, which we clearly need. Cam Miller, another guy you drafted in the 6th round. He's on the practice squad. And I know that that might not seem like a big deal, but in a sense, you could have drafted a quarterback, which could have helped you. Instead of going out and trading for a Kenny Pickett, you could have saved that draft capital, but it's because you took 2 swings and misses, and unfortunately, that's where we're at. And then AOC. People talk a lot about Aiden O'Connell wanting him to be the starting quarterback of this Raiders team, but does not anybody remember how bad he was in the preseason? So to me, it's like Geno Smith regressed horribly, and he looks so much worse this season. You know who also has looked way, way worse compared to whatever he's ever looked before? Aiden O'Connell. Look at Aiden O'Connell this past preseason, and then go look at what Aiden O'Connell has done previously with the Raiders. The worst Aiden O'Connell I've ever seen was this preseason. This is just the offense. We're just getting this party started. Coming up next year on the program, we are going to get into the issues on the defensive side of the football for the Las Vegas Raiders. And guess what? We're going to keep on turning up the heat, because, Pete, it's supposed to be a defensive-minded head coach. Now, as you can see, I'm losing my flipping mind, and I need something to be able to watch. I need something to be able to enjoy. And if you're a Raiders fan and you feel that exact same way, if you plan on tuning in every single time we go live, well, hey, at least get a Prize Picks lineup in. That way you got some opportunities to put some money in your pocket. And Prize Picks, for those that do not know, it's simple to play. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you can cash in and win up to 2,000 times your money. Join millions of users and sign up for America's #1 fantasy sports app. On Prize Picks, how you play, it's up to you. If you want flexibility, choose a flex play where you can get paid even if one of your picks misses. And if you want the biggest payouts, go for the power play. No matter your play, Prize Picks is a great way to put your takes to the test. So if you want to roll with me, download the app today. Use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. And maybe you tuned in when we were live for Monday Night Football, because one of the things that PrizePicks is doing that I love, and they are the only app that offers stacks, meaning that you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. So if you want to go more on Geno Smith passing touchdowns, passing yards, pass completions, you're going to be able to do that. This is the lineup that I rolled with Monday night. I did not go 10 to win 70. Unfortunately, Juju Smith-Schuster did not hit the more on the receiving yards, but I did get 5 out of the 6. So I turned that 10 into, I think it was $17.50, I believe is what it ended up being. Bottom line is, though, I hate the Chiefs. That Monday Night Football game was fun to watch. Why? Not only did the Chiefs lose, give me an FKC, but also I was able to put a little bit of money in my pocket. Let's go now to the issues on the defense for the Las Vegas Raiders, starting all the way back when Pete Carroll was hired. That's how we're going to do it every single time. First thing you do, you give Patrick Graham a raise. You go $4 million, and then what did you do? You gave a guy a raise for doing a good job, and then you changed everything about his defense. And now you're just making him run cover 3 over and over and over again. The Raiders are 23rd in the NFL right now in points per game, allowing 27.8. They allowed 25.5 last season. And also, they got the 4th highest missed tackle rate. You gave a guy a raise, and then you changed what he did. Think about that for a second. Then you lost talent. You didn't try to replace it. You lost Trevon Merrick. You lost Robert Spillane. You lost Nate Hobbs. You lost a lot of talent on the defensive side of the football. And with the second most money in salary cap, you decided to just do the Kai Blue Kelly experiment and a bunch of other players that were castaways. And guess what? When you look at the defense that you're running, you are stacking the box. You're giving up all these plays in the middle of the field, because when you're running cover 3, you need to have some talent in that secondary. And I thought we had a secondary whisperer in Pete Carroll, but apparently he's not whispering anything, because every single position has regressed. Our defensive ends, that unit has gotten worse. Our defensive tackle group has gotten worse. I'm speaking in terms of last season. Linebackers have gotten worse. Safeties gotten worse. Cornerbacks have gotten worse. I challenge a single Raider fan out there to give me one position group on defense that has improved this season. You can't do it. It's impossible. Then you look at the whole Christian Wilkins situation. I don't know what the hell that situation was. Nobody knows what that situation was. But it kind of looks now like a situation that's like, was that a Raiders problem? Still clearly a Wilkins problem, because he'd be playing if he was healthy. Clearly needed that second surgery. But that's a weird situation, no doubt about it. But you know what else is a weird situation? Jermaine Pratt, your best linebacker, arguably, him getting released and you not even bringing him to Indy. I will say this. I heard an interesting story from a source of mine that was the Raiders did not want Jermaine Pratt to go to Indianapolis to be able to talk to Lou A., and I can never pronounce his last name. Lou A. was the defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jermaine Pratt either goes back to Cincy or ends up going to the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Pratt was unable to go to that game in Indy. Again, he was a healthy scratch. Let's talk about the Devin White signing. I get you lost Robert Spillane, and losing a guy like Spillane, it sucks. I don't think that you would have been able to match 3 for 37, but now you're trying to get a linebacker that's horrific in coverage, and you're asking him to cover. If you allow him to be an athlete, get north and south, let him be an athlete and get north and south. Quite frankly, the way that the Raiders were playing Devin White and Jermaine Pratt, they should have flipped them. Put Pratt back as a linebacker. Put Devin White on the defensive line. That would have worked out a lot better. Malcolm Kuntz looks completely lost. Malcolm Kuntz looks as lost as what he did compared to like when Josh McDaniels took over. I mean, he looks like one of the worst edge rushers in the NFL. In terms of 109 edge rushers of PFF, he is ranked 100. You know who else is really bad? Isaiah Paul-Amal. Now, I don't think Paul-Amal is a bad player. You're just not playing him in the correct position. He's a strong safety. I said it. You said it. The entire world that follows this team and it's got an ounce of knowledge around this team knows that Paul-Amal is not a free safety. And instead of developing a player, like the Paul-Amal situation is why Raider fans should be very, very concerned about this regime, because Paul-Amal got better and better and better every single year as a box safety. And they go, nah, let's do this. Let's put him at free safety. And now he's the worst free safety in the NFL. 79th out of 79th according to the PFF. He's lost back there. Why? He's not a free safety. Then Tyree Wilson. He's playing more defensive end than defensive tackle. We know that that's not a good decision. He showed you in the preseason how much better he was at defensive tackle. He showed you this whole offseason how much better he was at defensive tackle. Yep. Let's just keep rolling him out there at defensive end. Porter. Darian Porter. Somebody that you drafted in round 3, 68 overall, you ended up benching him for Kai Blue Kelly. And I don't know if you all have been keeping up to date with Kai Blue Kelly. He has allowed 346 receiving yards this season, the most in the NFL. Second place, Riley Moss, 262. The Kai Blue Kelly experiment is just a slight example of this Raiders coaching staff failing to admit that they were wrong, and instead of failing to admit they're wrong, they're going to call games practice, and we don't need any more practice. Practice. We're sitting here talking about practice. Now, if you're a Raiders fan and you believe that the nation deserves better, I want you to hit that subscribe button because I want you to become a smarter fan. People that watch this show are going to understand all the issues, but I also need this show to continue to grow. I need Raider fans to keep on getting smarter and smarter. I'm not saying I'm the only one that's going to be dropping facts. If you're a part of this community, people are dropping facts all the time in the chat. I mean this when I say this. At times like this, we need smarter Raiders fans, but we also need a community. And that's what we're building here on the Raiders Report. Let's talk about now the players that you drafted. Darian Porter has logged 99 snaps and actually has looked much better recently. And yet, you're still playing Kai Blue Kelly over Darian Porter. Tonka Hemingway, somebody you drafted in the 4th round. He's only got 25 snaps this season. With a 1-4 team that clearly should be rebuilding, we're not playing our younger players. Instead, we're just keep rolling out old guys who also have regressed. Tonka Hemingway, 25 snaps. J.J. Pegues, the other defensive tackle slash, weapon that you could use maybe as a fullback. He's logged only 27 snaps. Cody Lindenberg, who you drafted in the 7th round, hasn't logged any snaps. So you're telling me a 1-4 football team that had 11 draft picks, you're really not playing any of those guys? Yes, that's exactly what I'm telling you. Think about that. Crosby, he's in a career low year in terms of win and pressure rate. Also, he's being dropped back into coverage. Him and Malcolm are being dropped back into coverage more this season than they ever have in the history of them being Raiders, and that blows my absolute mind because nobody thinks that that's a good idea. And Max has had some good games, but Max also has not contributed as much as what he has done in the past. And when Max Crosby is putting up career lows across the board in certain metrics, you got to pay attention to that because that literally means from top to bottom, we have regressed as a football team, and that is a coaching thing. That's a coaching thing. Now, let's talk about special teams because I've shown you how bad they failed on offense and defense. Special teams, you want my honest opinion? The fall guy is going to be Tom McMahon. Somebody asked me the other day who I think is the first coach fired for the Raiders. It's going to be Tom McMahon. Lock it in. You can save this video. Somebody tweeted out there. Shit, I'll retweet it. Tom McMahon's going to be the first Raiders coach fired, and it's because of how bad our special teams unit is. But I mean this when I say this. If we deserve better, hit that like button if you think the Raiders are failing in all 3 phases. I'm asking y'all to do a lot. Why? Because I need people to realize how bad Pete Carroll and John Spytek and this entire coaching staff is failing right now in all 3 phases. Let's now go to special teams here. The Las Vegas Raiders, right now on special teams, are ranked dead last in EPA, which is expected points added. They are also ranked dead last on special teams in DVOA. For those of you that don't know, defensive adjusted value over average. And right now, currently, the Raiders are on pace for the league record lowest EPA special teams history. We right now have the worst special teams unit in the history of the NFL when you look at EPA. Think about it. A.J. Cole, the NFL's best punter. He is a little bit banged up right now, and at the time I'm recording this video, the Raiders did sign a punter to their practice squad, and that punter's name, I can't find it. Doesn't matter. They signed a punter to the practice. Brad Robbins to the practice squad. Shout out to 19. But A.J. Cole, who was looked at as the best punter in the NFL, is having his worst year of his life. Worst year of his NFL career, and it's not even close. Then you lost the game due to a blocked field goal because I get it. Michael Mayer, he was out in that game. The guy who's usually protecting that right side ended up being Jonah Lalou, and he's not ready for that spot. But a good coach also would have been able to predict that, hey, Jacob Moyer might bob his head here a little bit, and that's how they timed up that kick. But also, you've given up a punt return touchdown. You also gave up a block punt, which got your punter hurt. And I don't know how many of y'all remember, there was also a kick return touchdown that got called back, and what I would say, honestly, a phantom holding call. But when you're talking about punting and kick returning, all the special teams, the Raiders are failing. You started Zamir White as a kick returner. You want the ultimate proof that your coaching staff has no idea what type of players they have on the roster? Here you go. A guy that has fumbling issues, that's got no explosive ability, and can't see holes. Yep, let's put him at kick return. Then you are 30th in the NFL in missed special teams tackles. That's not good, especially for a team that preaches and predicates special teams all the time. Also, this stat, I found this one, thought it was pretty cool. Opponents start at the 37-yard line. For the Raiders, that is dead last in the NFL, meaning when the Raiders punt, when the Raiders kick, on average, that opposing team starts at the 37-yard line. Dead last in the NFL. For the Raiders, they start their drives at the 26-yard line. Dead last in the NFL. Why? Holding, bad returnment, guys not knowing their responsibilities. When I say this, I mean it. The Raiders are failing in all three aspects on offense, defense, special teams, way worse than any regime that this Raiders organization has ever had. So in conclusion, the Pete Carroll and John Spytek regime has been worse than Josh McDaniels and Antonio Pierce, and I mean that when I say that. They've been worse because they've gotten everything that they could have asked for, and then some on top of that. You got a quarterback. You went out and you got your OC. You went out and you got a raise for Patrick Graham. You've got to build exactly what you wanted with the second most money in salary cap space, with 11 draft picks in total. You are not only failing this year, you are also failing for the plan to rebuild this team because we're not rebuilding. We're not doing it right now, and that's concerning. This regime got everything they asked for and are a complete disaster on and off the field because right now there's locker room issues. I've done this show for a long time, and I mean it when I say it. The Pete Carroll and John Spytek regime is an absolute worst-case scenario. It's a flippin' circus, and I need people to share this video so the entire world and Mark Davis realizes how bad it truly is.